There we go.
Hey, on this episode of the CrossFit Edwardsville Community Podcast, we're going to continue our theme of doing a deeper dive into seasonal affective disorder, which is one of those things that hits us around this time of year, the winter blues. And we have one of our real CrossFitters, Tom Warner, at last joining us on the podcast to talk about his experience with seasonal affective disorder and what strategies he uses to combat it, defeat it, and destroy it. Listen in. We're going to go to a deep dive in this episode of the podcast. Stick around.
Welcome to the CrossFit Edwardsville Community Podcast, where we hear and learn from our coaches, CrossFitters, and Glen Ed community leaders. Now, here are your hosts, Dallas and Greg.
What is up, CrossFit Edwardsville community? I am Coach G. I'm one of the coaching team here at CrossFit Edwardsville. And on this episode of the podcast, we're talking about seasonal affective disorder and how to fight it. And I am joined by my friend, the legend, the one, the only, the indomitable, the irreplaceable, the incomparable Tom Warner. Tom, welcome to the podcast.
What is up, my people?
I'm really excited to have Tom on the podcast. Tom and I talk almost every day. We work out together, but it's finally get to have Tom join us on the podcast. And, it's always fun hanging out with Tom, but our topic today is a bit on the serious side because seasonal affective disorder is a serious thing that really affects people around this time of year. And just to kind of, I guess, anchor us into what we're talking about, seasonal affective disorder is defined as a type of depression that occurs more likely at a specific time of the year, typically during the fall and winter months when the daylight hours are shorter. It's sometimes referred to as a winter depression or winter blues, and is thought to be related to changes in natural light and the body's internal clock or circadian rhythm. So, Tom, you're a CrossFitter. You've been CrossFitting for a while, and this is something that you've spoken to, you've addressed. We've talked about it offline before. Kind of share with us what has been your personal experience with seasonal affective disorder.
So here's what I would like to say. I already kind of suffer from depression year round, but at the same time, seasonal affective disorder only kind of, in my case, sort of aggravates my depression a little more. Once this time of year comes along, it's cold, you're staying inside a little bit more, there's still definitely a little more difficult to go outside and do the things you want to do. It's also near the end of the year, and it kind of gives you sort of a pause for reflection on the year before, and it just kind of eats your brain alive, wondering, well, what if I did this? What if I did that? What if I did this? What if I did that? There's a lot of things to it. And also, it's like you say, Greg, especially around winter when we're getting less vitamin D, it really, that also really aggravates things as well. So you just gotta always be finding things to deal with it, because it's gonna be there no matter what.
Right. And you've referenced a few of the hallmarks of seasonal affective disorder. So just to our audience to know, are you suffering from this, or does this affect you? Here are some of the key characteristics that you might look for. The first one is a seasonal pattern. SAD typically happens around the same time each year, so it's almost predictable because it's seasonal. And it has a lot of the same symptoms of major depressive disorder, like feelings of sadness, hopelessness, loss of interest, loss of pleasure in activities.
Mm-hmm.
Some people that experience SAD also have atypical symptoms like maybe increased appetite, weight gain, maybe increased sleepiness, craving for carbohydrates is another one. And then social withdrawal is another one, where people may withdraw from social activities, have difficulty concentrating, experience a lack of energy or motivation. And it's important that we outline that the exact causes and drivers of seasonal affective disorder are not completely understood. It's a combination of factors: a lack of light exposure, disruptions in our circadian rhythms, maybe a genetic predisposition. But what's encouraging for us to know is that it doesn't have to be a death sentence. It doesn't have to be the end. There are things that you can do to combat it. So I want to send it over to Tom again, because as somebody who's actually lived through this and experienced this and fought this, what are some of the strategies that Tom Warner uses to mitigate or minimize the impact of SAD on you?
So, okay, I want to start off by saying I think it's very funny you mentioned disruption of the circadian rhythm. That's especially a very, very big one because, it's like daylight savings is coming up. We still continue to observe it. It is a completely antiquated and useless tradition. And that really throws you for a loop because you get one less hour of daylight. And now it's just that combined with less light in winter only really aggravates things further. So to kind of really go into how I cope with my seasonal the seasonal aggravation of my depression. So, okay, I want to start off by saying this. It's basically kind of like, okay, so it's kind of like, how do I put this? So, in the show Samurai Jack, the main villain is a demon named Aku, right? So, Aku's whole thing is this: he can never be, at least for most of the series, completely defeated because, just there is very little in the world that could actually harm him. So he always kind of winds up coming back a little stronger, than last time. So, it's like, it's like sometimes it's always going to come back. And some days you fight it off. Some days it eats you alive. But there are some really good things you can do for yourself to make sure that you're keeping it at bay. The first and probably one of the most important things I do is CrossFit, because I mean, honestly, here I am on a CrossFit podcast. I'd hope I'd be doing it. So that's really great. Coming in, I gotta say, I'm going to just say, it's like one of my favorite quotes from the video game Cyberpunk 2077 is, iron is an excellent listener. It really it's always there for you, and it doesn't give out gonk advice. That's one of my favorite things.
Sure. So the rigorous exercise is definitely one of the things.
Yes.
I recorded a podcast previously where we looked into holistic remedies for seasonal affective disorder, and maintaining a regular exercise regimen was definitely one of them, as well as engaging in a social environment, a social experience with others. But go ahead, Tom, and continue.
That second part is 100% true, and I think that's why really we have such a rampant problem with depression in this society, is because it's like over the past, I don't know, 70 years or so, just it's like we've just kind of been conditioned and I just want to stress, it's like this doesn't belong to any one actor or any one group of people as to why this happens. Is that it's like America has had a series of traumas that have ultimately culminated in us being more distrustful of one another as time goes on. And so it can make that socialization a little more difficult. If you look at communities in the past, it's like they were a lot more open. It's like if you had a neighbor, it's like it was more welcome for you to call on them like live and in person because you didn't have a choice. Communities of people ate dinner together every night. They worked together every day. They really had all of these things that unfortunately we do not have today. That's a very important strategy, is having community. And also a third thing I think is very important is basically having interests that get you outside of your house. That is
Amen.
really big. It's absolutely, I just want to stress, it is absolutely important to spend time at home because, it's like, it's very good to just kind of get to just kind of hang out with yourself, get to know yourself and relax a little bit from time to time, but at the same time, like, finding something that can get you out there and out of your own head is great. That's the principal reason I do photography, is because it got me out of my own head. And,
Sure.
it really teaches me to appreciate the things I see. Like right now, even though it's really cold out, we're getting like this really good peak autumn golden hour light for like extended periods of time every day. And like, let me just tell you, if you feel depressed, just, it's like make a part of the strategy this fall to go out and enjoy that, along with, of course, all other important things like medicine, therapy. Therapy is a huge one, by the way. I should have mentioned that.
Sure.
Don't
Before we jump into that, I want to reinforce this point that I'm a pretty committed introvert, and left to my own devices, I'd be totally fine just being in front of a computer all by myself, working independently and quietly and alone all day long. And one of the nice things about doing the CrossFit group classes is it does kind of make me get out of my own shell and go and interact and be around people. And there's something really uplifting about hanging out in that social environment, doing a workout with others that lift you up and encourage you and push you. It's very helpful for me. I do really thrive the rest of the time just being by myself, but being by yourself and indoors for long periods of time can be a recipe for disaster, even if you're an introvert. So something that Tom knows is those of us over at CrossFit, we really push each other to go outside and do our workouts outside as often as possible. So we're seeing the sun is seeing us, and we're getting that infusion of vitamin D.
I'd have gone outside today, but it was just too cold even for my crazy ass, man.
I think we could have done it. I think that some of the others in the class might have pushed back, but anyway, every opportunity we get, we're going to go out there and get that vitamin D.
Hell yeah.
And then you were saying some other strategies for you, like some different kinds of therapy as well.
Therapy is absolutely important. I'm just going to tell you this right now, okay? There's a lot of stigma around getting therapy. And here's all I'm going to say. It's not for crazy people. It's not for, it doesn't make you weak. It doesn't make you strange. It doesn't make you any of the negative things society says it does. It just makes you a normal human with normal trauma that you need to just, it's like that you need help dealing with, and that's perfectly okay. Finding a good therapist can really be life-changing.
This is an important point as well, especially for guys, because guys will often bottle up all of their complex feelings inside and not have a healthy way to process them or externalize or verbalize them. And
God,
I think that having good therapy, good help is a really important way for us to process the complex emotions of everyday life. And it seems like, Tom, you agree with that as well.
Yes, I'll just tell you right now, I can tell you from experience, it's like we are raised in this society with some very toxic beliefs about the way men should behave, and it's really, really damaging. It's like we're taught to believe as men that it's our job to keep everything inside, suffer in silence, do our work. We're not allowed to show any other emotions other than like a very muted degree and very macho expression of happiness, as it were, or we're not real. And it's like and the only other acceptable one is, I guess kind of like self-righteous anger. Those are like, it's like the most, I guess, low-key, socially acceptable modes of behavior for men in society. And I am going to tell you, it's like I remember growing up, I was always called by like, a lot of male figures in my life. I was always called a pussy. I was always called a crybaby. I was always just said I was worthless, weak. And it's like, I know some people out there may think I'm making this up, but there are people in the world who do look on expressing vulnerability as a thing of contempt, worthy of contempt.
Sure.
It's like we need to that's definitely something we need to heal within ourselves.
I agree. And I love that you were able to articulate and express that. And I thank you for it, Tom. I think that like we've really touched on some very important, very practical strategies for addressing seasonal affective disorder. And I want to thank you again, Tom, for coming on the podcast to share your story.
Yeah, absolutely. There are a couple things I do just definitely want to also just kind of touch on in the time we have left here. So I want to say, it's like, just don't be afraid to talk to the people you love, and don't be afraid to be around the people that make you the best person that you can possibly be, because that's another source of depression, is having to mask who we are. It's like,
Sure.
and oftentimes, wearing that mask of inauthenticity is something that can really screw with our psyche, because it's so draining. If you find yourself around people that you can't be yourself around, like, those are not the people you want to be around.
I agree.
Like,
completely.
say, you say, it's like you maybe like you maybe like, enjoy doing art or reading books, or just like, something like that, just anything. But the people around you either don't get it or just low key make fun of you for it. Yeah, those kinds of people don't belong in your circle. Keep your
Right.
circle full of good people.
There's a lot to be said for surrounding yourself with people that uplift you, encourage you, inspire you, help you to be your best self. And I'm very fortunate that I've got a good crew like that at CFE, including Tom.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. I just want to also give, before I go a couple shout outs to some people at CFE who really helped me out. Nate, I really want to give a shout out to you, Nate Kerpan. You for reminding me not to be down on myself, and just to be the best version of me I can be. And also Tune, I absolutely love you, bro. You really helped me to be my best, and and I know our Joe Spaghettio prank didn't quite work out, but oh God, its potential was enormous. Let's try something again sometime soon.
I love it. Tom, thanks again for joining us on the
It's no
podcast.
problem. It was absolutely my pleasure, Greg. Now,
And mine as well. Thank you to our audience also for the gift of your time and your attention. And guys, we will see you in the next episode. Till then.
All right. Thank you.